Our Prime Minister Narendra Modi wished the Dalai Lama on his 86th birthday on Twitter publicly, and India deployed 50,000 additional troops to the Indo-China border. But why am I putting two utterly dissimilar events in a single sentence? I mean, what has Narendra Modi's birthday wish to Dalai Lama anything to do with the Indo-China border dispute? Well, at the first glance, these two events do not look similar by any stretch of imagination. They do not connect at all. But the devil lies in the detail. Dalai Lama makes the core of Tibet, and Tibet makes the core of the Indo-China border dispute. It is because of Tibet that a barren piece of land, a barren plot of land known as Aksai Chin, became so strategic, so important for China. And to avert this Chinese aggression, Narendra Modi is repeating what Jawaharlal Nehru did in 1959 in what is today being called offensive defense and what Jawaharlal Nehru called the forward policy. But this surface understanding won't work. We won't understand how Tibet is important to China and to India, and how because of Tibet Aksai Chin became so strategic. So let's get down, let's dive into the Indo-China border dispute. Let's understand what this entire issue is about, how Tibet is so central to this issue, and how this issue became an extremely complex geopolitical conflict. My name is Ishan Fauzdar and you are watching The Upfront. If you have any idea about the Indo-China border dispute, you will know, or you may have heard, that the relation between the two countries got ruined right after the 14th Dalai Lama took refuge in India. This is also very important in today's context, when our Prime Minister Narendra Modi publicly wished the Dalai Lama on his birthday. It is a sign which you will understand at the end of this video. But let's rewind a bit to 1951 to cover the entire Tibetan story for people who do not know the history. Now, in 1951, the Communist Party of China, or the People's Republic of China, whatever you want to call it, annexed Tibet forcefully. And forcefully made the Tibetan government to sign a 17-point agreement. Now, this was a very harsh agreement, and since 23rd May 1951, Tibet became the Tibetan Autonomous Region. That is, Tibet officially became a part of China. Now, you need to understand that Tibet was never a war-ready country like China. Tibet did not have an army, and Tibet was never war-ready. As the 13th Dalai Lama rightly described, Tibet was a small, religious and independent nation. It was never a war nation. It was all about religion and culture. Now, when Tibet was annexed in 1951 by China, the Dalai Lama was called upon by the people of Tibet to do something, because he was the leader, he was the most righteous, the most spiritual, the highest position in Tibet. So the people of Tibet obviously called upon him to do something, and the Dalai Lama in 1954 did go to China to talk with Mao Zedong, who was the famous Chinese president cum dictator, and the then Prime Minister of China, Zhou Enlai. The peace talks between them, however, failed, and the Chinese government cracked down heavily on the Tibetan nationalist movement. The situation became so dire that the Dalai Lama had to make the great escape from Tibet and to seek political refuge in India. In 1959, when Dalai Lama got political refuge in India, it became one of the watershed moments in all of Indo-China relation, in all of history of the Indo-China relations. And understand this: India gave political asylum to the most important person of a territory whose people were protesting and are still protesting against the Chinese government. How volatile and how controversial this can be. The entry of the Dalai Lama into India was no doubt very controversial and very volatile, but let's guess what can be even more volatile, even more controversial. Well, maybe an official Chinese map which claims Indian territory as its own. It can be more controversial and volatile, yes? Well, let me give you a little surprise. When the Dalai Lama entered India in 1959, it ruined the already bad Indo-China relations. Now this already bad came to surface in 1958. Let me tell you how. In 1958, an official Chinese magazine called The Pictorial published a map which showed the entire Nepha and parts of Ladakh as in Chinese territory. Now Nepha, the full form of Nepha is Northeastern Frontier Province, and it consisted of today's Arunachal Pradesh and parts of Assam. So the entire Arunachal Pradesh and some parts of Assam were together called Nepha in 1958, and the Chinese map published by Pictorial claimed that the entire Nepha, that is entire Arunachal Pradesh and parts of Assam and part of Ladakh, was Chinese territory. Now this single map triggered a conflict which culminated into the Indo-Sino War of 1962, and we need to understand that right after this map was published, there was a series of letters exchanged between the two prime ministers, the prime ministers of the two countries, Jawaharlal Nehru and Zhou Enlai. These letters still stand as a key source of information of the build-up before the war. Between these letter exchange, the Dalai Lama entered India into 1959 and made the matters which were bad worse. And therefore Nehru told Dalai Lama, and I paraphrase, "At the moment our relations with China are bad. We have to recover the lost ground. By threats to China or condemnation of China, we do not recover such ground." You can find this quote on page 300 of the book called India After Gandhi by Ramchandra Guha. It is a must read. Now let's understand the heart of the issue, which is the border dispute or the border disputes. Now the letters exchanged between Jawaharlal Nehru and Zhou Enlai were nothing but a store of arguments and counter arguments against the border claims of both the countries. The issue here gets a bit tricky because we essentially enter the field of geopolitics, that is geography involved, maps, borders, rivers, mountains, and hence it gets a little trickier. Therefore in this part I'll go a little slow, so observe carefully and understand carefully. The Indo-China border in whole can be divided into three sectors: the eastern sector, the central sector, and the western sector. In the eastern sector, India and China share their border through Ladakh, and it is the area where Aksai Chin is located, which is today called China administered Kashmir. The western sector, the central sector is the area which is almost undisputed. There are no major border disputes in the central sector. The western sector is the area where India shares its borders with China along the lines of Arunachal Pradesh, and this is also an area which is one of dispute. Let's first understand the borders which were drawn by the British in the two sectors, the eastern sector and the western sector, because in these two sectors is where the conflict lies. In the eastern sector, the Britishers demarcated the Indo-China border via a line called the Johnson's Line, and according to the Johnson's Line, Aksai Chin, which is today claimed by China, is a part of the Indian territory. Similarly, in the western sector, the line which demarcated Indo-China border was the McMahon Line, which was drawn by the Britishers, and according to the McMahon Line, the entire Nepha region was Indian territory, was a part of India. However, here we should note that China was a victim of imperialism just like India, British imperialism just like India, and China fought its way out of imperialism just like India did. Henceforth, China did not like imperialism, China despised imperialism, and as a result of this, China claimed that the borders in the eastern and western sector of India which were drawn by the British, were a result, an outcome of imperialism. And because they were an outcome of imperialism, China did not recognize these borders. China said in simple terms that because the sovereign government of the two countries have not demarcated the Indo-China border, the borders of the two countries had never been defined. From this logic, China claimed that because there was no demarcated border between India and China, China could claim any territory as its own because there was no border to begin with. That's what China claimed, right? And hence China started claiming Indian territories. It claimed Nepal and parts of Ladakh as Chinese territory because there were no borders. However, here China started playing strategically. China started claiming Indian lands strategically beginning 1960. And this strategic play of China is noteworthy and is praiseworthy as well. Let's understand how China did this. In 1960,
nevertheless, as Joe arrives, the official welcome has the customary friendly trimmings. Greeted at the airport by Nehru,
the Chinese Prime Minister Zhou Enlai was invited by Nehru to come to India and to solve the border dispute. And Zhou Enlai in 1960 posed a kind of settlement before Jawaharlal Nehru. Zhou Enlai said that although India had a stronger case for Aksai Chin, for keeping Aksai Chin, China was in more of a need of this part of Aksai Chin. And hence, if India gave Aksai Chin to China, the Chinese would keep quiet about the entire eastern sector, which is the Nepal region. This is the settlement which was posed by Zhou Enlai before Jawaharlal Nehru. Now, let's understand why this Aksai Chin is a very barren plot of land. It has no vegetation, it has no natural resources. So why did this barren part of land become so strategic and important for China, as China said? Now, this is where Tibet comes in again, and I hope you remember the Chinese annexation of Tibet. Now, China was building a road from Xinjiang to Tibet via Aksai Chin. China was building a road to connect Tibet to mainland China so that it could control Tibet better. And because this road went through Aksai Chin, China was in a need of Aksai Chin then, and henceforth China put out the settlement before India that if India gave Aksai Chin to China, China would keep quiet about the eastern sector, the Nepal region. Therefore, because China needed Aksai Chin at that point of time, China claimed Aksai Chin as a part of the Chinese territory. Also, there are many questions here about the LAC, which is the line of actual control, which makes the border between India and China in the Aksai Chin region. Now, LAC is a very confusing line to define because it is not defined, because both the countries have not defined LAC. So and it is very confusing because there are many LACs. There is a LAC of 1959, which is different from the LAC of 1960, which is different from the LAC of 1962, which is different from the LAC of 1993. But I do not want to confuse all of you here. Let's forget what all of these LACs. In very simple terms, LAC is a very vague line which demarcates Aksai Chin, and this is a line which has not been defined by both the countries henceforth. There are many gray areas, gray zones, and hence there are skirmishes and clashes between the Indian and Chinese patrol armies here in the LAC region because it has not been defined. Now, this entire explanation about Aksai Chin was about the western sector of the border, the western sector of dispute. And the last thing I want to mention here is that the settlement which was posed by Zhou Enlai before Jawaharlal Nehru was eventually rejected by Jawaharlal Nehru, but the issue could not be resolved, and China finally went on to take the Aksai Chin, which is the Chinese administered Kashmir, and they built a road connecting the mainland China to Tibet. That road is today called Highway 219, and China even revamped that road in 2012. That was all about the western sector. Now let's talk about the eastern sector. Now, after China built the road through Aksai Chin, after the purpose of taking Aksai Chin was over, China now wanted the eastern sector, which is the Nepal region, the Arunachal Pradesh region. And this is why I say that China strategically, very strategically and selectively claimed Indian land. First, they needed the Aksai Chin region for building a road. Hence, they took the Aksai Chin region and claimed the Aksai Chin region. Now that they have built the road, the purpose is over. They have completely subjugated Tibet. Now they are spreading their legs towards the Nepal region, the eastern sector. And evidence that China is pushing forward in the eastern sector, the best example would be the Doklam incident which happened in 2017. Now, for those who don't, for people who don't know, Doklam is a very strategic location in Bhutan. And if China started building a road in Doklam in 2017, if China was able to take the Doklam region, it would sit on the tip of Assam and at a height which would give it a strategic importance, a strategically important location when we talk militarily, because when you are at a height and at the tip of Assam, you can easily push forward and get into Assam. And also there are recent findings that China had built an entire village in Arunachal Pradesh, and Arunachal Pradesh forms the eastern sector, the Nepal region, as I told you. And these evidences are more than enough to prove that China first of all wanted the western sector because they wanted to subjugate Tibet, and after completing the road, after completing the purpose for taking the western sector, China is now pushing forward in the eastern sector, because that's the strategic thing to do, right? After completing that part, you go to this part. This is also because China is going on a venture of the Belt and Road Initiative, building belts and roads around the world, which is China's dream project, which I'll talk about in some other video. So this was the strategic subjugation and claiming of Indian lands by China. Oh, a small stuff about the Doklam incident. The Chinese were confronted by the Indian military in Doklam, and the standoff lasted 2 months, after which the Chinese had to retreat. However, when we move forward from the 1962 war, well, a small note about the 1962 war. The 1962 war was basically China telling India that hey India, look, I am taking Aksai Chin whether you like it or not. I am much stronger than you militarily, so don't bother going after this barren plot of land, because you see, I am stronger. It was basically a dhamki. But after 1962, the war of 1962, there were some efforts made to define the Indo-China borders properly, and in 1993, India and China signed the Border Peace and Tranquility Agreement, which is BPTA. And India defined most of the central sector border. This is also the reason why the central sector has very low disputes as compared to the eastern and western sector. A step was taken towards defining the border of the eastern and the western sectors as well, but to define the borders, you need to exchange maps. The two countries need to exchange maps, and that map exchanging exercise was stalled by China in 1993, and the effort was made in 1996 as well, but China again stalled that effort. Even after Narendra Modi came to power, he tried to resume talks on exchanging maps and defining the eastern and western sector, but China ignored this effort and rebuffed India. So China has been stalling this exercise of exchanging maps so that the two borders can be properly defined, and you can understand why. Because China wants the eastern sector, now wants Arunachal Pradesh. Strategic play, right? Finally, we must look at our past and learn from our mistakes, because as George Santayana said, those who do not remember their past are condemned to repeat it. Our first Prime Minister Jawaharlal Nehru made some mistakes in tackling the Indo-China dispute, and and he made these mistakes because, and I'm choosing my words very carefully, because he was a fan of China. And I would not blame Nehru for being a fan of China, because the Indian ambassador to China, who was K.M. Panikkar, he got in 1949, K.M. Panikkar got a chance to interview Mao Zedong. And after interviewing Mao Zedong, K.M. Panikkar remarked that Mao was a very pleasant and benevolent person. Now imagine that this person, Mao Zedong, was amongst the most, and is regarded as amongst the most violent dictators of the world, and a man who single-handedly manufactured one of the worst famines of Chinese history. This man was being remarked as benevolent and pleasant by the Indian ambassador to China. Well, because of these words of Panikkar, Nehru did not criticize the Chinese annexation of Tibet in 1951, and Nehru did not see the coming Chinese danger. China was had already annexed Tibet, so it was already stretching its arms. But Nehru did not see this because of his love for China. However, Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel was quick to sense this danger, and he wrote a letter to Nehru stating that China was no friend to India and that Nehru should be more alive to the Chinese danger. However, Nehru ignored this letter. This was a mistake. Nehru ignored this letter, and just a month after this letter, Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel died. Hence, there was no one to counter Nehru. Then in 1954, Nehru went ahead and signed the Panchsheel Agreement with China and recognized Tibet as a Chinese territory. This was a big mistake on Nehru's part. The signing of the Panchsheel Agreement as well as recognition of Tibet as a Chinese territory was a big mistake. And this was all because Nehru loved China. It was not until 1959 that Nehru realized that China was in danger. In 1959, in a place called the Kongka Pass, which is in Ladakh, 9 Indian soldiers died of a Chinese ambush. And after this Kongka Pass incident, Nehru pulled the 4th Division out of Punjab and deployed it to the Indo-China border. Nehru then called this the frontier policy, and the same kind of a step was taken by Narendra Modi by deploying 50,000 troops to China, which Narendra Modi is calling the offensive defense. The name are different, but the move is the same. Deploying military to the Indo-China border in reaction to a Chinese ambush. In today's case, it was the Galwan clashes. The deployment of troops by Nehru, the 4th Division, was a bit too late because the 1962 war took place. However, if Modi was on time or not, we would know in the coming future. There is also a completely different angle on why India lost the 1962 war, which concerns the then controversial Defence Minister V.K. Krishna Menon and his fight with General K.S. Thimayya, who is a legend in the field of in the Indian Army, and who is regarded as one of the most heroic soldiers we have ever had. But that is a topic for another video. If you like this video, please do like our channel. Please do like this video. Please do subscribe to our YouTube channel. Press the bell icon so that you get regular updates on whenever we upload a new video. Thank you so much.